It's down straight up 6, yeah. Gosh, it got quiet. Everybody's waiting on me. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, January the 21st, 2020. If you would at this time, everybody please look in your pockets and see if you got a telephone with you. If you would, put that thing on silent for me right now. Okay? Please look at all your electronic devices and put those on silent for me. Okay, Madam Clerk, all the commissioners are here along with the county manager and the county attorney and the deputy county manager. If you are a speaker tonight, if you will come up to the front, if you're on one of these microphones, press the button to the right, the little red light will come up on top, and that will mean we are recording and we need to record your comments. So if you are a speaker tonight, use those speaking devices that we have here on the table and the podium. With us this evening, we are very proud to have the Reverend Dr. Wayne Arthur Johnson, Sr. of Shiloh AME Church. He will be doing our invocation. And then for our Pledge of Allegiance, we will have Cub Scout Pack 184 from the First Baptist Church with Marla Patchell, the pack leader. Patel? Patchell? Okay, there we are. So we'll first start off with our invocation. If you'll stand and join me. And there he is.
Let us pray. God of grace and God of glory, on thy people pour thy power. We thank you for this day, a day that we've never seen in all the days of our lives, and we are assured that we shall never see it again. As we bow in your presence, sovereign creator, we acknowledge you and we thank you for all that you have done with us and for us up until this very moment. We pray for the world in which we live. We pray for these United States of America. We pray for the state of North Carolina, the county that we reside in called Burke. We ask that as we have this meeting, we are reminded of the scripture that tells us, happy is that nation whose God is the Lord. And so we thank you. We ask that you would continue to bless us. Help us, O God, never to be divided, but help us to be united. From out of the dust of this same earth, you have created all flesh. Now bless us. Help us to allow from this place that justice will roll down like water and righteousness as a mighty stream. We thank you and we bless you, and we together say, amen.
Amen. Thank you, thank you. All right, Cub Scouts, everybody remain standing.
Cub Scouts, attention. Honor your flag and your country. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'll remain there, we want to come down and take a picture with you, if that's okay. All right.
you want you, these fine young gentlemen are showed up tonight.
Good job, Elder.
Yes.
Good job.
We have one Tiger Scout in the yellow scarf, and he is in the second grade, and one Bear Scout, who is third grade.
Let's move you over in the middle. Parents, here, come on up. Close, parents, so you get your picture.
There you go. Get the picture. Oh, you want to do it? Yes.
All right, another hand. Thank you so very much. Moving on to our item number 4 on the agenda is approval of the agenda itself. Gentlemen, you've had this for a day or two, so we'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
You've heard Commissioner Abel's motion. All in favor signify by raising their right hands. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Moving on to the minutes approval, we have the June 4th, 2019 from the recess meeting that has been revised. You have been provided a handout for that revision. And then we have minutes from June the 18th, which was our regular meeting. We also have some revisions for that, and a handout has been provided to you for that. With those two changes, we'll entertain.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we approve both the June 14 recess minutes and also the June 18 regular minute meetings.
With revisions. Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. All in favor signify by raising the right hands. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. At this time, we'll move to item number 6 is our presentations. We'd like to call Caitlin Settlemeyer, our Director of our Animal Services, and she will bring forth the Pet of the Month. Caitlin.
So this month last month we started doing cats as well. So we can, I guess, start with our cat of the month, and then we'll get into Mr. Pibbles here, our dog of the month. So our cat of the month is Persimmon. Persimmon is probably about a 2-year-old male black tabby cat. He's got a short nub tail. He's very, very sweet. From this video, we had to cut a little short because he was getting a little antsy. But we'll go ahead and play that.
Persimmon, who is one of our adoptable cats at the shelter. He is a wonderful black house panther with a bobtail, and he is waiting for his forever family.
But he is a really cool cat. If anybody's in the market for a cat, we have plenty. You can come down and meet them at any time. So our dog of the month is going to be Mr. Pibbles. Here, Mr. Pibbles has been with us about a month, believe it or not. He's the cutest little thing we've ever seen. He's probably a little Jack Russell Terrier mix. So he is looking for his forever family. He's a little high energy, but he loves other dogs. So if you have any other dogs in your family, looking to add a new one, even looking just to have a play date, we do let people come in, check our dogs out for, an hour, for a few days, and you can bring them back. That gets them out of the shelter for a little bit. And I know this guy would love to be out of the shelter, if not in his forever family, just to hang out with a family for a few days. So he's about 2 to 3 years old, and he's pretty much perfect.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, here's your opportunity before you leave tonight. If you really need a good pet, this one is right here. As you know, that since we have taken over the animal shelter or the animal clinic, and we are now in an adoption program, our adoption rate has gone up to about.
For cats and dogs, we're looking at about 60%. From about 20%.
From about 20%, so we've doubled our adoption rate. We have worked hard on our euthanization rate, and it has gone down. So we're very proud of that. We're trying to get to 0. Don't know if we'll ever get there, but we're working hard to get to no euthanization. And as you all know, we have a special meeting before long to take a look at plans for a new animal services center. So we're very, very proud of what we're doing now. Anybody that would like to volunteer to go down and help Caitlin and her staff out, we'd be more than happy to have you down there. So please go get a pet, and please have your pet spay or neutered. All right. Thank you so much, Caitlin.
Thanks.
All right, gentlemen, at this time we'll move on to our second item is a proclamation proclaiming January the 2020 as National Mentoring Month, and that will be presented by Dorian Palmer from BBBS. Dorian.
Good afternoon, folks. How exciting it is to be in Burke County at the Board of Commissioners meeting. So I came to you at your pre-agenda meeting. I come to you every year to request a proclamation to talk about just how lovely and how exciting and how honored we are to be here in Burke County. As you know, I'm Dorian Palmer. I'm the board chair for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Western North Carolina. A couple numbers I told you during the pre-agenda meeting I just want to highlight again. We've been in Burke County since 1999. In 2019, last calendar year, we served 40 young people between the ages of 6 and 18 in this community, and working on growing that across all the schools, across more schools and across the various communities we serve in this county. And a number I want to throw to you again, across the entire western North Carolina, from Morganton to Murphy, we serve 3,016 children. 3,016 children just had someone who was able to love them, and that is just so fantastic. And so I just wanted to thank you guys for allowing me to present this proclamation to you again. I enjoy what you guys do, and I'm grateful.
Thank you, Dorian. Questions or comments for Dorian? Anyone? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion by Commissioner Taylor to adopt proclamation number 2020-01. All in favor signify by raising the right hands. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. This time we'll move forward with the Sheriff of Burke County for recognition of Detective Christy Puckett for the Advanced Law Enforcement Certification. Sheriff?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Board, for the opportunity to present one of these prestigious awards to another officer that's getting an advanced certificate. And it reads that by virtue of the authority vested in it by the laws of the state and in recognition of the attainment of training and educational objectives commensurate with the role of a professional law enforcement officer and of personal dedication and service to the people of North Carolina, the Attorney General and the Chairman of the members of the North Carolina Sheriff's Association and Training Standards Commission, through their authority vested in them by the laws of the state, do hereby award Kirsty Michelle Puckett with Advanced Law Enforcement Certificate.
Kirsty, I'm so sorry I didn't have my glasses on. I said Christy, but it is Kirsty. And I want you, when you get your picture done, I want you to say a word, if you will.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir. Kirsty, go right over there if you would.
I want to thank the Sheriff's Office for the opportunity to work here, the great citizens of Burke County. I've worked in law enforcement right about 8 years, and through the state of North Carolina, I've obtained several hundred training hours, along with a degree to obtain this. A lot of those training hours do come from the Sheriff's Office. And again, I want to thank them for the opportunity to work here and work here with the citizens of Burke County.
Thank you so much. Moving on to item number 7 on our agenda will be our scheduled public hearings. The first one will be for community development. Will be zoning a map amendment ZMA 2019-10 and public hearing presented by Scott Carpenter, Deputy County Manager and Planning Director. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Good evening. We have one rezoning request this evening, and staff has received a rezoning application from Robert Parker. He's asking to rezone a 2-acre portion of an 11.35 acre parcel. The request is to rezone that portion of property from its current zoning of R3 residential to the general business district. The property owner wishes to establish a furniture upholstery business at this location. As far as the site analysis goes, the 911 address of the parcel is 2937 Warlick's Church Road, Morganton, North Carolina. The parcel has 2 small frame sheds on the property, according to the tax records. Otherwise, the land is vacant and is wooded. The property has road frontage on Warlick's Church Road. However, the 2-acre parcel area that's requested to be rezoned would be accessed by way of a 30-foot right-of-way private easement. The property is located within the Eicher Township of Burke County, and it's in the Lake Hickory Water Supply WS4 protected area. The parcel has a very small portion of floodway located in the southeast corner of the property. As far as the surrounding area goes, land uses in the surrounding area are a mixture of residential, commercial, as well as agricultural uses. The parcels that adjoin the subject property are all zoned residential 3. Many of those adjoining parcels have dwellings on them. There are several parcels in close proximity to the subject parcel which are zoned general business. There is a church and several commercial businesses as well as warehouses located in close proximity, and there are also poultry operations. You can see the zoning and the property and the surrounding area from that zoning map, and you can see there are some other general business zonings nearby. As far as conformity with the comprehensive plan goes, because these are supposed to conform with the comprehensive plan, the current land use plan for Burke County is the 2016-2030 Blueprint Burke Strategic Land Use Plan. So within that plan, this area of the county is designated as the secondary growth area. This area has many of the attributes of the primary growth area, which means that it has infrastructure, utilities, or transportation corridors, and as well as mixed uses where there's the expectation of growth. So we do believe that this property is in conformity with the comprehensive plan. As far as conformity with the Burke County zoning ordinance, the current zoning district for this parcel is Residential 3 District. The R3 Residential District is a less restrictive medium density residential district that allows a broad range of residential uses. However, the request for tonight is to rezone that to the General Business District to establish a suitable location for an upholstery business. So it would have to be rezoned in order to allow for that business, since you cannot do that in the R3 district. The location of the proposed zoning does have pros and cons. The proposed location of the non-residential zoning somewhat insulates it from the existing residential uses because it is surrounded by a wooded area. However, access to the proposed location is by way of a private 30-foot access easement. This access road is currently not in place. The county does not have specific requirements for commercial access at this time, but they are being included in the updated zoning ordinance that's being written. Unless the portion of property proposed to be rezoned adjoins a state road, there could be issues in the future with that. The other concern from the staff was that the general business use would open up the request to a whole host of other types of commercial business and not just to this one type. And that's what a few of the neighbors were concerned about, and I believe they shared a letter with you all concerning their concerns. So as far as the planning board went, we did have a planning board meeting. We had a quorum. We had 4 members present. There was a motion made to approve this rezoning request, and that actually failed by a vote of 2 for and 2 against. There was not a second motion made, and so there was nothing has come from the planning board as far as a recommendation on this rezoning request. The staff had encouraged the applicant to rezone this to a general business conditional district where the types of uses would be set out in advance, and there would be certain conditions because it is surrounded by a lot of residential area. So that, gentlemen, is the request that is before you tonight, and I'll be happy to answer any questions following the public hearing.
Gentlemen, questions for Scott or comments?
Mr. Chairman, pre-agenda, I thought we had decided maybe how we would handle this, but I have several statements and questions. If you want me to ask them now, I'll be happy to ask them. Or
You certainly may.
all right. On page 54, the statement in which we just left, anyhow, the statement on that was, this would not be considered spot zoning, but qualifies for the non-residential zoning due to existing general businesses. And on page 55, it states the objective members' reasoning was that they did not feel that the majority of allowed uses within the general business district would be suitable for that appropriate area, which somewhat at a conflicting statements. And to note that we did get a petition, and it has 59 signatures to it. I think one of the things that's concerning me a little bit, Scott, is in the petition and all that, they keep bringing up a chicken house, and there cannot be a chicken house on that property according to the state rules and regulations. It's not big enough. You can't build a chicken house, a commercial chicken house, within 500 feet of anybody's property, and I think it's 2,000 feet of a church. One of the the entry number 2 in your presentation did not include a name on it, and of course we don't know who that's from since it does not have a name on it. The other thing that we need to be careful about is that it appears we're trying to penalize this applicant because his brother owns chicken houses, and that's definitely not something that we should consider on the basis of there's not going to be a chicken smell on that property. You all received a letter from the Fosters. The second letter on January the 15th came from them. And, I don't know which way this will go, Scott, but the thing we get asked to do sometimes is the most impossible thing. Either way we go, somebody's going to like us and somebody's going to hate us. And it is definitely a situation which we would prefer, if that's the right statement, Mr. Chairman, we would prefer that the two groups get together and iron out the differences and see if they can come up with their own conclusion. It is likening to, you have 2 children, and somebody much bigger and more powerful than you says you can only have one, and you're going to give one up, and which one do you want to give up? Well, that's about like this decision. Many of them are my friends, many of them I grew up with, and certainly would not want to be at odds with any of them. I think the other statement I wanted to say was that the applicant had stated that he'd be willing to sign an affidavit and all that stuff, that there'd never be a chicken house on that land as long as he lived. He is not wanting to go into the chicken business. He wants to maintain a business that his father started that employs 3 or 4 people, and they manufacture furniture. And that's all I wanted to say, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Madam Clerk, this time I'll open up the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak for or against the zoning request ZMA 209-10? Come forward, sir, if you would. State your name and your address.
I need to push the button.
Oh, it's on, sir.
Hi, my name is Robert Parker. I'm the applicant, actually. The only thing that I probably want to clarify or reiterate that Mr. Taylor has already said, we're talking about 2 acres of land. First of all, I can't build chicken houses. I'm not a chicken farmer. I'm an upholsterer, and I will clarify that we are a custom reupholstery shop. We don't manufacture, so there's not going to be any trucks on that road. It's just me and my employees. And I fully intend on building a house right in front of that building also. So, that's where I grew up. We've lived there, my family, since 1947. I'm just simply asking to keep doing what we've been doing for a long time. I really don't have anything else to say. I certainly don't want to cause any animosity. I actually know the Fosters. I know them well. But I do feel like a lot of this confusion is over the chicken houses, which my brother does own. But that's his business, not mine. And it is separate from my property. That's all I have to say at this particular time. I appreciate your time and considering it.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Anyone else like to speak to it? Come forward, ma'am, if you would, to the podium. State your name and your address.
Okay, my name is Sheila Foster. My address is 8608 Parker Avenue. I did not grow up here, but I've lived in that home for 32 years. If you will notice where he's wanting to build the business, it's right at our back door. Where he's going to build his house will be further away. And Robbie's not once approached me or my husband about this, not once.
Ma'am, speak to us, please.
I'm sorry. He never approached us about it. We didn't know anything about it till we got the letters in the mail. We've known Robbie for 32 years. First I've heard of this. But I feel like it's so close to my home and our well. My husband has COPD and emphysema. In fact, he has pneumonia tonight. And we do not want any odors coming in our home. And I'm very emotional about this. Please look at how close that is to our home. And that's really all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to ZMA 2019-10? Come forward, ma'am. Please state your name and address for us.
My name is Gail Fulbright, and I live at 3178 Warwick's Church Road. And all I want to say is my property is next door to Steve Parker, who has 4 chicken houses next door to my line. I inherited some land from my parents, and it's affected the value of our property tremendously. Of course, all our parcels of land was supposed to be all the same. 2 of my siblings sold their property prior to the chicken houses. They got $150,000 for their parcel. I tried for 2 years to sell mine after the beginning of the chicken houses, and I was unable to do so. Finally, I got 2 realtors to come to give me a value on my property to see if I could move my land, because the odor of the chicken houses is terrible. It is unbearable. So the 2 realtors came and gave me a valuation of my land, which they said was between $60,000 and $65,000. And that's quite a difference from $150,000 down to what I actually sold it for, which I got a little bit more than the $65,000 for it. I moved it in 2019. But this has affected the property owner's value of their property tremendously. I feel like another business would just further lower the value of our property, because we are in a residential area, and it's been residential for years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fulbright. Anyone else to speak to 2019-10? Madam Clerk, seeing no one else and hearing no one, the public hearing is closed. Gentlemen, any other questions or comments for Scott?
Mr. Chairman, what's in that building right now?
Scott, what's in the building right now?
Or in the last couple of years?
Which building?
In the building that he's talking about putting the upholstery shop.
He would have to answer that, sir. I don't know.
I mean, has it just been a vacant building, or?
It would,
Not built yet.
There's no building.
It would be new construction. That's what the request was for. And while I'm here, if I may, I want to apologize, Ms. Foster, wherever you are. I didn't understand. I didn't realize that I had to come and talk to you. We don't do refinishing. We just upholster, so it's not something that anyone's going to hear or smell.
Mr. Parker, if you would, come on back and talk to us.
Yeah, I just wanted to apologize to her. I feel like I've offended her, and I didn't realize that I did. We can't legally refinish. We don't have that type of business. We're not allowed to do that as far as the county. We don't have spray rooms or booths. We don't do that. We just simply reupholster. There aren't smells or odors or large trucks or anything. The largest thing that would ever come to my building would be a UPS truck that comes to any of our homes any given day. Nothing was trying to be hid.
Any other comments or questions, gentlemen? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we refer this ZMA 2019-10 back to the Planning and Zoning Board for further reconsideration after our discussions at pre-agenda and what we're hearing tonight. I think from my perspective, what I'm hearing is by rezoning this as general business, it would just kind of leave the door open to a what if going down the road. If Mr. Parker was interested in a conditional zoning that might be satisfactory to those around him, then perhaps this could go forward easier. But so I'll make that motion.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard the motion from Commissioner Britton to refer ZMA 2019-10 back to the Planning and Zoning Board for reconsideration. All in favor signify by raising of the right hand. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Scott, thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, at this time, the board will move into the informal public comments. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed up?
Yes, sir. We have 4 or 5 speakers signed up. I would call David Cavanis.
And as you come up to speak, announce what you want to speak to us about. I would appreciate that.
Sure. Once again, David Cavanis. I'm the administrator for Burke County Second Amendment Sanctuary, and that's our purpose here tonight, me and my fellow members that are attending. Basically, it's real simple. We just want to make Burke County a Second Amendment sanctuary and follow behind. I think it's up to 11 counties already successfully passed it, and many more that are in process and days and weeks just away from guaranteed sanctuary. That's my business here and our business as well. I do have a statement to read for you. Okay. Good evening. My name is David Cavanis. I'm the administrator for the Burke County Second Amendment Facebook group. I'm and the author of change.org petition that you should have in front of you. I think it's been presented. Tonight I came with many good citizens of Burke County, North Carolina, wanting our county to be declared a Second Amendment sanctuary county. We should not have to ask this of our Board of Commissioners nor our sheriff. However, in light of recent government behavior and actions around this great country, it is high time that Burke County takes its place and makes a stand. Every commissioner on this board, including the sheriff, who is present with us this evening, took an oath to defend our Constitution of the United States. Tonight, we, the good citizens of Burke County, have come to reaffirmation of your support of the Constitution and all of our rights, but tonight specifically the Second Amendment declaration by you, the commissioners and our sheriff, as a Second Amendment sanctuary county in the state of North Carolina. I'd like to draw your attention to the petition before you. I'm assuming that you guys got it. Okay. On that petition, you will see a few dozen names that appear from various states that aren't here. Okay, if you would omit those from the list, very few of them. Many more to come, by the way. Normal circumstance, we have drew a single black line through those names and not counted them. But for reasons of transparency and clarity for those people who have ties to this community and mostly represent family members that live here and do not have access or use to the internet or petition, which is posted online. Today at 4 p.m., the count was at 2701 on our current petition. So again, it's growing as we go. I believe the letter accompanied by this petition, you are provided a link to that particular petition so that anytime the members of the board can watch those numbers climb as word continues to get around. Our Facebook group is a private page by invite only, and you may ask to join up as administrators. No, you probably can't. That's okay. And administrators up to accept or not into the group. As this evening, we only have 6,282 online members, and we have held off until tonight's meeting to see what the commissioners do. I can tell you that once we get our boots on the ground in this campaign and start reaching out to over 90,000 current Burke County residents and 54,000 registered voters, those numbers are going to change dramatically. We're asking the Board of Commissioners to join with the citizens of Burke County to protect not only the Second Amendment rights, but all the rights that we are afforded under the Constitution of the United States. That's my statement. Again, I think we had some good news in the back from my folks out here with me tonight that we discussed. So we'll be placed on next month's agenda, I understand, and we're just hoping to get this passed and get it behind us. And we can all get on with our regular business, which we've got a long journey ahead of us after this. So, but thank you for hearing us tonight, okay? And we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cavanagh. Next speaker.
Dr. Robert Miller.
Obviously, my name is Robert Miller. I live at 2942 NC 181. I know several of the members of the board. It's good to see everyone. I rise in support of this, and I rise with my fellow citizens here from Burke County. Our county has a long history of standing for our country. We have veterans in this group from probably everywhere from Korea forward. Our people have always answered the call when needed. This is something that needs to be done, not just because it's a gun issue. This needs to be done because in recent events in the last months, we have witnessed the gutting of the Constitution of the United States in a manner that is absolutely disrespectful and a slap into our face to all the veterans in this room. So I stand before you and ask you at next month's meeting, I won't be able to attend, to please adopt this resolution and ratify it for the citizens of Burke County.
Thank you, Doctor. Next speaker.
Jeff Barrett.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Barrett. I live at 806 Vine Arden Road. I am a local educator. I'm a Marine Corps and Army veteran. I served in Iraq. And guys, I took an oath 38 years ago to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And guys, that oath still stands today. I'm 56 years old. I served 20 years in the military, guys. I tell my kids at school, I said, guys, without the Second Amendment, you're not going to have the other 26. Once it's gone, you'll never get it back. Lately, I've kind of sat on the sidelines, but no more. I'm not going to do it. I'm sick and tired of seeing local, state, national politicians take away our gun rights. You know, every time guys, I'm a teacher. You know, I hear about mass shootings every day, or at least weekly. And instead of blaming the individual, we blame the gun. And then we blame gun owners. You know what, guys? I've loaded my AR-15, sat it on my table, and it did nothing. Nothing. Guys, we have to fight. A great civil rights leader, a guy named Frederick Douglass, who was an abolitionist, he was a former slave. He said we can fight in three ways, folks. We can use the ballot box, we can use the jury box, or we can use the cartridge box. God forbid it ever comes to the third one. Been there, done that, guys. We do not ever want to see that here in the United States. Okay? We need to do it the right way. You know, I ask you guys, please get on board with us. Is it symbolic? Yes, sir, it is. But it's showing the state, the federal government, enough is enough. No more. Thank you for allowing me to speak. God bless you. Semper Fi.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Thank you.
Ron Strunk.
My name is Ron Strunk. I live at 4081 Scott Trail here in Morganton. I want to thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for giving me an opportunity to speak some truths. We talk about rights, gun rights, and so forth and so on. The amendments that we have in this Constitution go well beyond rights. They are our birthrights. They can neither be legislated by man to give them to us or to take them away from us, plain and simple. For the past 25 years, our republic, not a democracy, a constitutional republic, has been taken over by forces of darkness, if you want to call it anything else. An unarmed republic will not stand long. To unarm the people in any republic or country is the thing that the enemy does, is to disarm the people. With that said, yesterday I went to Richmond, Virginia, and I saw a pro-Second Amendment rally there. It was incredible. Virginia is an open carry state. Previous to, here recently, since George Soros and Michael Bloomberg bought out the legislature and installed Ralph Northam, you were allowed to carry in the Capitol building. You were just allowed to carry wherever you so desired. Not talking about the concealed carry. So, with that said, the previous speaker mentioned how these rights are slowly but surely slipping away from us because they're being legislated away. Nobody's listening on the opposite side. This, to protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. For the past 25 years, we've been battling a domestic enemy. Yesterday's rally in Virginia, there were a minimum of 120,000 people there, a maximum, I'd say, of about 130,000. Northam had sealed off the Capitol building and everything else, and they put up magnetometers because he said you can't have weapons. He banished the weapons there. That's unconstitutional. That's wrong. Nonetheless, it was done. So the people that did show up, they came armed. The militias from several different states came, and they were in their battle garb. They had their AR-15s, AK-47s, whatever, and their pistols on their side, and so did the general public. Everybody was afraid that it was going to be, Antifa would show and that it would be all disorderly and there'd be violence. An armed society is a polite society. There was no violence. Yesterday we've had all these little brush fires going with the Second Amendment. Yesterday, this event is historic. And all these little brush fires have turned into raging forest fires. We would like for y'all to, join the rest of us and protect our birthrights. Please, I beg of you, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Strunk.
That's all the cards I have.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for taking part in your local government. We do appreciate that. I appreciate your courtesy in this room. You don't know how much that means to all of us. For you veterans, from this veteran and this veteran over here, we salute all you veterans that are here tonight. So that ends our public comment section. Okay. If anybody desires to leave, I will give you a few minutes to leave, or you can stay with us for the rest of the meeting. I'm going to be calling us back to order in 1 minute if you need to leave the building. Cap, will you shut that door, please, sir? Somebody got it. Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll move to our consent agenda. At this time, I'll ask Brian Steen, County Manager, to review that agenda. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, you have 12 items on your consent agenda. Number 1, Blue Ridge Community Action, Community Service Block Grant for fiscal year 2021. Item 2, Clerk, reappointment of Library Board of Trustees. Item 3, Community Development, Fontaflora Trail, accept easement, Lake James Camping Resort. Item 4, DSS, appointment/reappointment to Child Protection for Child Fatality Team. Appointment, reappointment to Child Protection Child Fatality Team. Item 5, Health Department, presentation of 2019 Community Health Needs Assessment. Item 6, Health Department, presentation on progress of Burke County Recovery Court. Item 7, Fire Marshal appointments to the local Emergency Planning Committee. Item 8, Fire Marshal, North Carolina Viper and Burke County Emergency Management Agreement. Item 9, Sheriff's Office approval of authorized signers for inmate trust bank account. Item 10, Sheriff Inmate Food Services contract price revision. Item 11, Tax Department tax collection report for December 2019. And item 12, Tax Department release refund report for December 2019.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Brian's review on the consent agenda. Your pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we approve all 12 consent agenda items as presented.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Commissioner Taylor's motion. All in favor signify by raising of the right hand. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Thank you so much. Moving into item number 9 is our items for decision. Our first item on the agenda tonight is a request for refusal of real property at East Burke Middle School for Fire and Rescue Substation. Gentlemen, as indicated in your following resolution and accompanying exhibit, before real property located at East Burke Middle School can be leased to the Eichard Fire and Rescue Incorporated for a substation to provide fire protection, the county, Burke County, must officially refuse ownership of that property. North Carolina General Statute 115C-5, 18 extract says that the Board of Education shall offer the property to the Board of Commissioners at a fair market price or at a price negotiated between the two boards. If the Board of Commissioners does not choose to obtain the property as offered, the Board of Education may dispose of such property according to the procedures herein provided. At this time, the county, I believe, does not, after conversations with the county manager, does not have the need for that property and believes that situating a fire and rescue substation on that property would be in the public's best interest. So I will open the floor for comments and/or questions, and I will ask a representative from the fire department if you will please come forward just in case questions. Brand, if you will, if there are any questions that you will be able, you can either come to the podium and or the table, whichever you desire. All right, gentlemen, the floor is open for questions or comments.
Mr. Chairman, any of the questions that I asked at pre-agenda, was anybody charged with getting some answers to that?
Remind me of the question, I'm sorry.
Do what?
Remind me of the question that you had, I apologize.
Well, my problem with this is that we're putting the cart before the horse and wanted to know the size of building, cost of the building, if it did happen. We don't know anything other than the fact that we're transferring equipment, land that a possible fire department would be built on. And another question that I didn't ask then that I will ask now, and that was, did we get, what is the appraised value of that 2 acres that we're willing to deal with or give away? And I don't know, if you marketed that property and somebody like Arby's, fast food service, that would bring a premium, and that doesn't mean they need to get it. The fire department might need it worse, I don't know. And another question that has entered my mind is the property on Mount Harmony Church Road. What is the fire department planning to do with that? And wouldn't it be considerable or considered to give that back to the school and let them sell it and let them apply it to the debt or the county, whichever? I'd just like to know, the school has decided they did not want it, and I'd like to know what efforts they made to market that property. It could be worth a considerable amount of money to pay down debt load on the schools. So those questions are some of the ones. I don't remember them all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Brand, do you want to touch any of that as far as being the chief of the fire department? And I guess Commissioner Taylor has raised some questions about why maybe y'all went to the school to ask for the property in the first place, which that's negotiations between you and the Board of Education. We are here tonight, and I still think the only reason I'm here is to decide, do I want to refuse this land?
The location is primarily what we're looking at. Get access to Interstate 40, 4 schools, large rest home. The growing area in our fire district is right there. It's a location. I'd hate to think about what fair market value would be on that property. I don't think the fire department could afford it. By that property being where it is, though, it's going to benefit, citizens of that area, especially those on the outskirts of our fire district that right now are out of the 6 Mile Fire District. That would bring those folks in and probably reduce their homeowners insurance premiums by 50%. So, we look at that. We also look at response times, you know, the setup of our water system, you know, where do we need to be putting fire stations?
Now, you know I'm not picking on you, but, you know, some of the things that is hard to make a decision based on partial information is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. And I feel like in this situation, we're trying to make that kind of decision. And is it the wisest decision? Well, you never know unless you research every avenue. And, you know, I knew that y'all had purchased land to build a second one on. So what's going to happen to that property? You know, it's...
I would be speaking entirely for my board of directors, but I would presume that property would be put on the market for resale.
Any idea of the value of it, land?
Estimate, probably $20,000.
Okay. I will tell you that I have received several, and I don't mean a bunch, I mean just 6 or 7 comments about they don't believe it's a good idea simply because the traffic is already, you know, you can't get in and out of there a lot of the times now. When it is better than it was because they built access on the lower end of that school, which is some of the suggestions the commission boards made to the school. But it's still just, it's a lot of traffic. And then the consideration that they have in plans to build yet another school over near East Burke High.
Correct.
Which is even going to add more traffic to the situation. So,
Yeah. Whatever the traffic situation is there, if we have a call in that area, we've got to get through there. Even from where we are now, we're just 4 minutes further.
Well, yeah, that tells your side of the story, but it doesn't tell the side of the many people, hundreds of thousands of people driving by there delivering their kids to school, and the school bus goes in half full, and there's 1,000 cars sitting around the school letting out kids, and it's just, now 1,000 might be high, a couple of hundred letting kids out for school, so it really creates a traffic jam in that area on some of the days when especially if you run a little late or the schools run a little late, it can create a huge traffic. But those questions to me should have been, you know, answered before the proposal was delivered to us to say, here, do this, because we don't have that. How much will it alter the traffic? I don't know. I'm not a traffic expert.
You know, we'll have 2 employees at most for the first few years. So, you know, I don't think it would add to the traffic situation.
I can't see how it could help but add to it, but how much, I do not know. I mean, you know, and as we discussed at last, at our pre-agenda, the thing that gets me is we have, you know, we have fire departments less than 10 miles apart, which means 5 miles coverage between almost. And it's, you're going to be sitting there and you got one up at Conley Springs, which is what, maybe 4 miles, 3.5?
Probably closer to 3.
3? I don't. And number one, that's another question I asked. Did anybody do a survey of needs of whether they need a fire department, another one or not? And that wasn't answered. But the I don't know what you're going to end up. By the time you do a fire department, you build it and you stock it and you put fire departments. What are you looking at? $1 million, $2 million?
Wouldn't think so. Yeah. Station 6 CMS space is a very similar building to what we would be looking at, and you know, you approve. I'm not sure what the exact cost on it.
forget the building to equip it. What are we talking about in fire department, engines, fire engines, et cetera, et cetera?
We would try to equip it with the better than newer equipment that we have. We're not asking for any more money. We're not asking for a tax rate increase, you know. Our interest right now, our interest is to put a fire station in the Eichert area. We don't have plans for that yet, but we do have that interest.
Well, it just, fire department, 3.5, how far is it from the fire department at Hildebrand?
To that property,
Yeah,
4 miles, 4.2 miles.
I just, Mr. Chairman, the thing that I'm trying to get at here is that, you know, we can't equip it with no money, and can't operate it with no money. I really don't know the true cost of what this is gonna be, and if we endorse this, we're endorsing whatever they want to do with it, and that's fine. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do. But I don't have any objective to giving property, especially if we don't own, for the school, to the fire department. My problem is the cost afterwards, and do we really need a fire department 2 miles? There'll be 2 miles between, total of 4, and be 1.5 miles in the other directions to Connolly Springs. So within 3, 4, 7 miles, you got 3 fire departments. Now that to me is somewhat abusive to the taxpayer to pay for if it's not really needed. And that's the point I am trying to make.
Mr. Chairman, you know, I trust your board of directors. Y'all are fire experts. Y'all do the site analysis. I'm not going to sit here and make judgments on what you think is a good call. Now, the question before us isn't whether we're endorsing anything. We're not endorsing anything. They're asking us if we want this property. We don't want the property. We're making the decision that's saying that we are declining the option for that property. Now, what you do and what you and the school board agree on, that's between you, those two interested parties. So this isn't even on our radar at this point. Do we want the property? And that's the question.
Any other comments? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to formally decline the Board of Education's offer of 1.88 acres of real property located at the intersection of Miller Bridge Road and Old North Carolina Highway 10 as presented.
All right, gentlemen, you heard the vice chair's motion. All in favor signify by raising the right hand. All opposed? Madam Clerk, that will be 4-1. Commissioner Taylor in opposition. Thank you so very much. Moving on to our next decision item is from the Sheriff's Office, is request for part-time detention officer positions. That will be presented by the Sheriff, Steve Wisman. Sheriff?
Thank you, sir. We're having some difficulty hiring the staff that you allocated to be hired at the new jail. So we're looking for ways to staff the jail to make it safe for both the staff and the inmates. So what we're proposing is that you would allow us to use part-time detention officer positions to help fill those staffing vacancies that we currently have until we continue to try and recruit full-time officers. We're asking for 15 part-time detention officers positions. We had those that was created in July of 2016, but those positions were not funded in this current 2019 through 2020 budget year. So we're asking that you fund those part-time positions and you can provide the salaries from the unfilled positions that we still have existing.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard the sheriff's presentation. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I have 3 items of concern. Sheriff, the presentation does not include how much money do you have that's accrued from the unfilled positions that you're looking at?
And I don't see Margaret here. She could probably give you that information. Is she here? Oh, here she comes from the back. Can you help us on that, Margaret?
Question was lapsed salary money available?
The funds are fluid because the longer he doesn't fill a position, the funds keep changing. And that's why there's funds available. He's had positions that were approved, the new positions. He was unable to hire his new detention officers in the time like we had budgeted them. So there's been funds available for that. There are definitely budget funds available for this.
I understand the situation. My question was how much money is in a ballpark?
I don't have that number because it changes every day he doesn't fill a position.
So if we don't have that money, that answer, we don't have the answer, how many part-timers will it pay for? How many will he be able to hire?
Again, it depends on how long it takes him to fill it with a full-time position. This is just so that he can get his full-time positions hired, but it will give him some options so that he can staff better until he gets a full-time in place.
So we don't have the dollar amount and we do not have how many part-timers it will hire.
It will hire.
Yeah, 15 is what we're
15.
asking to hire.
15.
I thought you was wanting 15 full-time.
No, 15 part-time positions until we get those full-time positions hired.
Can you give me a timetable of when you want to achieve this?
I would love to do it tomorrow, quite honestly. I don't know where we'll find 15 part-time positions. Every sheriff in the state is struggling just like we are filling positions. We're going to send that to all the sheriffs that are adjacent to us, every sheriff that touches Burke County, and ask if they would be okay to send it to their detention officers. Hopefully they would have some officers that maybe even live in Burke County that could come to Burke County and work. We're asking for detention officers that's already on board in jails. But
well, I don't have any problem with spending unfulfilled positions money or pay. Margaret, if you could just at some point, I'd just a little conversation of how many dollars we're looking at and how many positions will that pay for. So if you can. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Chair will entertain.
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize the Sheriff's Office to hire part-time detention officers utilizing existing position numbers 1840 through 1854 as needed until all full-time detention officer positions are filled.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Commissioner Britton's motion. All in favor signify by raising of the right hand. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Thank you, Sheriff.
thanks, sir.
Moving to our next item is appointments to the Tourism Development Authority. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to make some appointments or reappointments to the Tourism Development Authority, which was created by special legislation in 2007 and the membership modified by resolution in 2009. Appointments or reappointments to the Tourism Authority are needed, and the term is for 2 years, and those are staggered terms. Seat number 1 represents the hotel motel industry collectors of occupancy tax and was occupied or is occupied by Polly Ledbetter, who also serves as the TDA chair. The commissioners designated Ms. Ledbetter as chair on August 14th, 2014 by a vote of 4-0. Commissioner Abley was absent. Applications on file listed in alphabetical order for this seat are Jenny Irwin, Mitch Curse, Polly Ledbetter, Rebecca Randolph, and Samantha Reed. If Ms. Ledbetter is not appointed or reappointed, a new chair or chairman will need to be appointed by the commissioners. Seat number 2 represents the city of Morganton, has been occupied for many years by Sharon Jablonski. Applications were received from Ms. Jablonski and from Rob Winkler. The city requests the reappointment of Ms. Jablonski or Mr. Winkler. Seat number 3 represents the town of Valdez and was occupied for many years by Marissa Angie. An application was received from Gretchen Costner, who is the executive director of the Waldensian Heritage Museum in Valdez. However, on Friday, January 17th, Ms. Costner clarified by email that she was actually applying for one of the travel and tourism seats and not the Valdez seat. Mayor Chip Black also emailed that day and recommended that Ms. Angie be reappointed to the TDA as the Valdez representative. Seat number 4 represents the hotel motel industry collectors of occupancy tax, was occupied by Teresa Selman, who owns the inn at Glen Alpin. Ms. Selman resigned on December 11th and reaffirmed her resignation on January 3rd. Her unexpired term ends December 31st, 2020. Applications on file listed in alphabetical order are, again, Jeannie Irvin, Mitch Kurse, Polly Ledbetter, Rebecca Randolph, and Samantha Reed. Seat number 5 represents travel and tourism at large and was occupied by Dana Wisnett. Applications on file for this seat are listed in alphabetical order: Wayne Abley, Gretchen Costner, Isaac Crouch, Diane Ryle, Mike Watts, and Dana Wisnett. Seat number 6 also represents the travel and tourism at large and was formerly occupied by Jared Bailey. Applications on file, again, are Wayne Abley, Gretchen Costner, Isaac Crouch, Diane Ryle, Mike Watts, and Dana Wisnett. Seat number 7 is also a travel and tourism at large and was occupied by Mr. Commissioner Wayne Abley, who represents Abley's Restaurant. Applications on file, again, are Mr. Abley, Gretchen Costner, Isaac Crouch, Diane Ryle, Mike Watts, and Dana Wisnett. Seat number 8 represents the hotel motel industry collectors of occupancy tax and was occupied by Angel Crawley of the Comfort Inn. Applications on file are Jenny Irwin, Mitch Kurse, Polly Ledbetter, Rebecca Randolph, and Samantha Reed. Seat number 9 is the commissioner's seat, and that was handled in December as a separate agenda item, and Vice Chairman Mulvey serves as the commissioner's representative. I would just highlight that there is information in your packet at your seat from Mr. Crouch and the 2 emails that were referenced from Valdez and Mayor Black.
Madam Clerk, please explain when we did find the resolution that was passed by a preceding board that it did address ex officio.
Certainly. Let me get that in front of me. There is one seat, I believe, as an ex officio, and that is the county finance director.
I did want to mention that during the earlier meeting that we had, we did not have in front of us that resolution. It was passed by a prior board of commissioners, and we finally found that resolution, and this is the resolution that is in place at the current time for us to operate by, that was passed on whatever date Madam Clerk said.
Right, and that was on the next page. Per the authorizing legislation, the only ex officio member is the county finance director, who is now Margaret Pierce.
All right, gentlemen, any questions or comments about what Madam Clerk has presented? All right, this time I'm going to recognize the Vice Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I move to make the following appointments. To appoint Rebecca Randolph to seat number 1, hotel motel collectors of occupancy taxes, for the remainder of a 2-year term and ending December 31st, 2021. Seat number 2, to appoint Rob Winkler to seat number 2, Morganton, for the remainder of a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2021. Seat number 3, to reappoint Marissa Angie for seat 3, Valdez, for the remainder of the 2-year term ending December 31st, 2021. Seat number 4, to remove Teresa Selman and appoint Samantha Reed to seat number 4, hotel motel collectors of occupancy tax, to complete the remainder of a term ending December 31st. Seat number 5, reappoint Dana Wisnett, travel tourism at large for the remainder of a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2021. Seat number 6, to appoint Diane Ryle, travel tourism at large for the remainder of a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2020. Seat number 7, to appoint Mike Watts, travel tourism at large for the remainder of a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2021. Seat number 8, to appoint Mike Kirsch to seat number 8, hotel motel collectors of occupancy tax for the remainder of a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2020. And I would also like to extend our appreciation and thanks to long-serving members Sharon Jablonski, Wayne Abley, Teresa Selman, and Polly Ledbetter.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard these nominations. Are there any other nominations for any of the 8 seats that were nominated by the Vice Chair?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see us appoint Mitch Curse, who is one of the biggest motel operators in Burke County. He was on this board for 2 years on one of the positions that are calling for travel and tourism at large, I guess.
He was nominated for seat number 8.
Seat number 8, Wayne, he's hotel motel collectors of occupancy.
I thought you said Angel Crawley.
No, Mitchell Kerr.
All right, so Mitch Kerr, all right.
Yes, sir.
Kerr. Yes, sir.
All right.
All right, any other clarifications? All right, this time I'd go ahead and like to enter, we have the motion from the Vice Chairman for these 8 seats. All in favor of those nominations signify by raising of the right hands. Madam Clerk, that will go down 5-0. At this time, we will take a nomination for Chairman of the TDA.
Mr. Chair, I move that we appoint Vice Chairman Mulvey as Chair of the Tourism and Development Authority.
All right, we have Scott Mulvey's name in as Chair. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, those nominations will close. And all in favor of Scott Mulvey as Chair of the TTA appointment, please signify by raising of the right hand. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. All right, at that time, that will take care of the new appointments to the Tourism Development Authority. And I thank you, gentlemen. All right, that moves us to our reports and comments section at this time. So I think I want to start to the left with Madam Clerk. I want to leave JR to last. I sent JR on a trip to Raleigh today to hear what was happening with our opioid lawsuit. So we'll go this way, Madam Clerk. Anything?
If you can bear with me a second, I wanted to highlight the events that the Animal Services Center has planned for Valentine's Day, and I'm looking for that in the plethora of reports that I gave you. But anyway, it's very cute, and it's adoption related for Valentine's Day.
Okay. Jeff? Mr. Vice Chair?
Just a quick update on our presidential search at the Western Piedmont Community College. As many of you know, thank you. I'm chairman of the trustees out there, and we've been conducting a search ongoing for really the past 6 months. We opened a portal for applications in December. That was closed January 10th. Our expectation was hoping to get 50 to 60 applications, which would be on the high end. And so when we closed the portal, we actually had 79 applicants. And the search company and gentleman that's leading the search he was blown away. He said that's the most applicants that he's seen at any community college in North Carolina, even the larger ones. So that tells you a lot about Burke County. People want to come here. They want to live here. It's attractive for so many reasons, and it shows with that level, because when these presidents applications apply, many of them come into the community. unbeknownst to us, they come in undercover because they want to look at the schools, they want to look at the hospitals, they want to look at county government, city government, they want to look at greenways, they want to look at all the different things that encompass this community. So they do their homework, and it's in their applications. You can tell they've either been here or have done an extensive research online. So it says a lot about how great Burke County is that we have that many applicants. And just to give you kind of an idea, of the 79, we actually had applicants from 28 states. And so pretty amazing, and 4 countries, which was I wasn't expecting. So we've gone worldwide, and I just want to let y'all know that. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Commissioner Taylor?
Yes, excuse me. Out of my 5 committees that I served, 2 did not have a meeting in December, so you would not get a report of that. You got a report of the other 3. In addition to those, participated, along with a couple others of you, the annual Christmas employee dinner on the behalf of the employees. Also, number 2 and final, I believe Brian and Johnny and myself, all 3, attended the annual Martin Luther King banquet. What is interesting about that banquet, the keynote speaker was a Morganton resident. She is now Renee Caldwell Gilbertson, and now a Superior Court judge in Los Angeles, California. So it speaks well of Burke County. Thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Abel?
No comments, thank you.
I want to take just a few minutes to inform the public that we have now received back the old BurkeCounty Confinement Center. One of the things that we are looking at for future use of that building is that we do not have a long-term mental health or substance use or substance abuse facility to care for these people. Brian and I met with Partners Behavioral, our LME MCO, and asked them if they could develop a plan for us. And that occurred actually about 1.5 years ago. We started a conversation with Partners about developing a long-term care facility here in Burke County. We want to probably regionalize that since there's no true long-term care facility in our area. So on the 10th of next month, Brian and I will be making a tour of the old BurkeCounty Confinement Center along with members of our LME MCO partners, along with their chief medical officer and others, to take a look at that building and see if it would be apropos for us to have that type of program over there. I tell you that because we also had a phone call conversation with our district litigation attorneys, as you will recall, about, it's been 2 years now, hasn't it, since we entered litigation against the big pharmaceutical companies. That court case is now in Ohio under Judge Dan Polster. There is some settlements trying to be arranged. Unbeknownst to us, several states' attorneys general, to include North Carolina, tried to do they actually came into the litigation after we were in the litigation with our MDL attorneys, and there was a sidebar agreement that was attempted to be made with attorney generals with the big pharmaceutical companies to settle for a dollar amount of money, which the cities and the counties were not involved in. So the attorney generals did this on their own. The North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, knowing that this did occur, invited attorneys from the Attorney General's office along with attorneys from the MDL to meet in Raleigh today, which is not a great day to meet since most people, because of Martin Luther King, all of our commissioner meetings was probably all across North Carolina on Tuesday. So I asked the county attorney to attend that meeting to give us an update on the position that Burke County stands in that lawsuit. So JR, if you will, I do not want you to enlighten us on what your regular presentation, just keep it to what happened in Raleigh today, sir.
Well, we met with our multi-district litigation attorneys that represent us, and with members of a team that has been put together by the State Attorney General. We heard from a fellow named Swain Wood, who outlined for us what these four attorney generals have put together. Now, it's a proposed settlement with the big three: Amerisource, Bergen, Cardinal, and McKesson, as well as with two of the lesser manufacturers, Johnson & Johnson and Teva. And he also had with him today Dr. Elise Powell, the state opioid coordinator for the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and they were singing Kumbaya about coordinating the state-local response. What Mr. Wood is proposing, and by the way, he says this is very different from the tobacco litigation, although it wasn't quite apparent to me where it was different. This is a nationwide settlement, and nationwide, those three companies would be paying out $22 billion over 18 years. $7 billion of that would be nationwide in the first 3 years. But like I say, this is a proposal for a nationwide settlement. The funds must be used to confront the opioid crisis or to repay the entities involved in the settlement for what they have spent in the past on this opioid devastating epidemic. In addition to $22 billion, Teva, which produces the drug Suboxone, they will be providing a nationwide supply for a 10-year period of that Suboxone drug, which is now one of the two preferred drugs to be used in medication-assisted treatment, or MAT, which is the direction that Elise Phillips and Swain Wood say we need to be going. In addition to the cash funding and the medication, there would be strict new rules where manufacturers cannot oversell to an area, and if they find red flags, they have to address them and report them, and they have to, as a group, compare the over exposure of opioids or drugs such as those as a group. Now, that's a proposed settlement. What hasn't been proposed yet is what would happen to the money that the Attorney General, as well as every county and every municipality, would receive. They were big on working together because according to Mr. Wood's settlement, wouldn't take effect unless enough states and counties nationally participate. NC, North Carolina won't get a fair share unless we all work together, and North Carolina won't make the best use of benefits unless we all work together. So he wants to work very closely with the counties to decide how local, state, and how they would collaborate to make this work. So there is no proposal before the counties. Now, there are two different types of counties. There are litigation counties, which are 76 of the 100 counties in North Carolina, who have actually filed suit against the big three, as well as Purdue Pharmacy and the family that controls them, and the large distributors and retailers. So that group, we don't know how they would be treated differently from the 24 counties who haven't filed suit and missed the deadline for filing suit for our action. Someone threw out the figure that as far as cash is concerned, the county should receive 15% of any settlement. The state should receive 15% of any settlement, and then the remaining 70% should be put into an abatement fund with some sort of representation worked out between the counties and the state, and figure out how this abatement fund would address any changes that a county or the state wants to make in order to help end the opioid crisis. Our counsel was there, Mike Fuller. He reported that the number one case for trial against the big three went all the way to jury selection, and on the morning of jury selection settled for $260 million to two Ohio counties that were our bellwethers. The MDL court now has authorized 5 new bellwether suits to go to trial. One of those is Cable County, West Virginia. One is the city of Chicago. One is the remaining Summit County and Cuyahoga County, Ohio, the remaining defendants that didn't settle for the $260 million, for that to go to trial. For the city and county of San Francisco to go to trial, and for the Cherokee Indian Nation to go to trial in Oklahoma. So those are the next 5 bellwethers. The attorney generals have a case that is getting ready to go to trial featuring New York State and the 2 biggest counties in New York. So there will be action on that before long as well. According to our attorney, control of the money should go to the counties, not to the attorney generals, that we can share ideas and resources, but that it's local problems and that the counties need to have the control over how that money is spent. Of course, there were no details on what the Attorney General is proposing, so there's nothing that the county can respond to, but he was hoping that this would open some doors so that some numbers could be reached and we could reach this settlement. Now, of course, this is just a settlement for North Carolina. But it's a national settlement, so it would have to be agreed to by everyone. They expect that we will be asked to do something within the next several weeks. They really didn't have a good explanation of why time was of the essence, other than if New York should settle out, then we already have two companies that have filed bankruptcy, and will that end up with any more? So that's the way it was left, with this sort of ominous, we're going to be asked to work with them, and we're going to have to specify whether we're in or out in that length of time. So expect something like that to come up. And that was about it.
Not encouraging. Gentlemen, I think we've been backed into a corner by our MDL attorneys, and I made that very clear in a letter that I sent to them. I'm not real happy. We're being forced to collaborate with the attorney generals. There was some words used about the pie was going to go away. Everybody's going to be eating on the pie. There'd be no money left for us to get. And obviously that could be true of some settlements in some larger cities. That's the part that bothers me, is there's no distribution schedule as to whether rural counties get a small cut, whether rural counties get a big cut, or if the big guys get the big part of the pie. That's the scary part of it all. So they've backed us in the corner, and we don't have a whole lot of time to make a decision probably if we want to stay in the lawsuit and move forward with our MDL attorneys. What I'd like for you to do, if y'all have any questions concerning what JR has presented to you tonight, if you would write those down and send those in to JR as soon as possible, so that we may want to meet together again as 5 commissioners in a special meeting to decide how we want to continue in this lawsuit. The part of the intent was in the long-term care facility was to use part of that settlement money along with grants and other monies to establish a long-term care facility, which we sorely need in Burke County, because we have a number of agencies that are stepping on each other's toes doing the same thing, and I think we all could come under one roof and provide some help for people that sorely need it. So if y'all would do that for me, and maybe if you have other questions, you can call JR a little bit later to get some clarification on some of the things. JR, I do appreciate you making the long trip and getting back here on time. So thank you. Mr. County Manager, your report.
Thank you, gentlemen. I had a meeting with our construction folks and the architect today about the Sallyport on the back of the courthouse, and we are looking at a potential ribbon cutting date of March the 12th, I think, at 10:30 in the morning. So if you'll put that on your calendars. And I also want to take a moment and thank you for the cards and your thoughts when my mother passed away.
Thank you, Mr. County Manager. I'd like to mention a couple announcements. Miss Margaret turned a year older. I think she left. No, she's back there in the back hiding. Back there on January the 18th, she got 1 year older. And the vice chair is going to be a little bit older on January the 28th, I understand. So please, I wish these folks happy birthday. I would again reiterate, keep your pet spay or neuter. Don't litter in Burke County. Pick up a piece of trash for me if you would. Like us on Facebook. I would appreciate that. I have no other comments from the chair. Madam Clerk, vacancy announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have the following opportunities for citizens to be involved in county boards and committees: the Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committees, Council on Aging, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, City of Morganton Board of Adjustment and Planning Board for the ETJ, Voluntary Agriculture Board, Burke County Board of Adjustment and Planning Board, Western Piedmont Regional Transit Authority Transportation Advisory Board, Partners Behavioral Health Management, Burke Senior Center Advisory Council, and the Recreation Commission. We just appointed the folks to the Tourism Development Authority.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have no need for a closed session tonight. With that, I'm going to call us into recess until January the 30th, when we will do our needs assessment special meeting for our Animal Services Center. So we'll stand in recess until January the 30th at 2:00 p.m. Thank you, gentlemen and ma'am. We have